there was a lot of data obviously coming out in the dollar Canada. Not a lot, not a high impact, but we had two pieces of data that came out at 8:30. The reason I kind of gave the dollar Canada a wide berth, in other words, did not want to trade it, had more to do with what the futures were doing. And as a Forex trader, there are certain futures contracts that I keep a very close eye on. When it pertains to the dollar Canada, the COMDOL, I'm looking at the US dollar and I'm looking at crude oil. And what was so unusual about both those markets, which I also trade, was the fact that the dollar was relatively strong today and holding on to some gains. Okay? And crude oil just continues to weaken. And crude oil is getting clobbered with dollar strength and what is looking like a relatively slightly flat to weak open on the Dow. We're pre-market down about 25 points, which is more or less flat. I mean, obviously it's negative, but more or less flat. So with crude oil getting clobbered, we just broke 84, by the way, on crude oil. I like to trade the QM contract, which is the E-mini crude oil futures. That just broke 84. We're down $1.60 right now on crude. Weak crude and a strong dollar would typically propel the chart of the dollar Canada higher, which is what we're seeing. But what was weird is when we were down about 70, 80 cents on crude oil and the dollar index was also strong, we were still moving sideways on the dollar Canada. So it had not yet reacted to it. And that type of delayed reaction or lack of reaction always concerns me. And I'd just as soon rather leave the market alone than aggressively assume that the dollar Canada is going to start to trade higher based upon the Canadian dollar or the loonie weakening in the face of a strong dollar and a weak crude oil market. I didn't like how the delay was really reflecting this kind of psychology of malaise. I don't know. I don't like that. Right now I do know there's a double top. There was a 3 o'clock wave. There was an opportunity for what I would deem an aggressive momentum trade as prices would have broken through resistance right about here. Okay. The MACD, which is what I use to confirm momentum trades, the MACD histogram was positive and it was confirming a breakout buy. Again, my hesitancy came from the fact that crude oil was lower significantly, the dollar was strong, and the dollar Canada just stayed flat. Because on the flip side of that discussion, if crude oil suddenly started to gain momentum and move higher, and if the dollar suddenly started to falter and stall, my thinking was, at the same time, if the loonie was holding its ground with such bearish factors, strong dollar, weak crude, imagine if that scenario reversed and the kind of volatility we could have seen. My thing is, sure, I would love to take a trade and have it go in my direction. This trade was valid at the time, I just didn't like it. Okay? I'm always thinking about what happens if I'm wrong. Do I really want to end the week on a bad note? I'm not a big fan of taking aggressive trades on Fridays, mainly because I'm going to carry that psychology into the weekend. I'm going to beat myself up. And then come Monday, I might start revenge trading. You know, there's a lot of factors that have nothing to do with the charts that could affect the reasoning behind taking or not taking a trade. But this was a valid momentum trade as prices rallied up higher through resistance, and now we're reaching this double top area, and this could very likely be it for now for this move. We'll see. Okay? All right, so everybody, I appreciate your time. Hope you enjoyed this little walk through the Canada.